leave her alone. I don't bother her. I don't bother her. It's funny. In our whole relationship, she was the one that always called me. So, because she had to in prison. So you realize, like, I don't call her. Like, I never did. So, like, it's one of those where I don't bother her.
He's like, that post of life with gypsy-rose or something like that. And he was talking about that picture that's going viral, that it did not come from my account. I didn't post this picture. It was a picture of me and him together, and then a picture of me and Ken. And it said something to the fact that I had to kiss a frog to get to the prince or something. I did not write that. I may have not been respectful in certain areas. I may have not always been that thoughtful of how things would appear to him when posting pictures of me and Ken. But the last thing I'm going to do is be cruel. I might live my life and enjoy my time with Ken and my relationship with Ken, but I'm not going to be cruel to Ryan.
When relationships fall apart, the aftermath is often messy, emotional and filled with unanswered questions. But in this case of Ryan and Gypsy, the complexity runs even deeper, tangled in public perceptions, legal complications, and the painful stink of betrayal. Ryan recently went live, and what unfolded was a raw, unfiltered glimpse into his struggle with Gypsy, the news of her pregnancy, and his position in her rapidly changing life. It was clear that he had a lot on his mind. The way he spoke, the poses he took, and the visible emotion beneath the surface suggested he was torn between staying composed and just letting it all out. Right off the bat, he hinted that he had tea on Gypsy, but followed up by saying time and place, as if reminding himself not to spill everything at once. He was visibly conflicted, trying to hold back, and the tension ran throughout his entire season.
Clean, appreciate it. Let's see. Spill the tea on Gypsy. Come on, guys. Any tea on Gypsy? Yeah, I got tea on Gypsy. Guys, I know Gypsy pretty much. She's told me stuff that nobody's ever told. Like, she's never told anybody. But time and place, guys. Time and place. My divorce is getting close. Ooh, that was cool. Thank you for that gift. And so, divorce is getting close. And, there's a time and place. I know y'all want me to. Well, I just saw somebody happy birthday.
Ryan is tired of the questions, tired of the intrusion into his private life, and tired of the narrative he keeps getting pulled into. Yet deep down, there was an undeniable need to be heard, to set the record straight. His side of the story is often overshadowed by Gypsy's louder public persona, and it's as if he's wrestling with a responsibility to speak his truth, while also recognizing the risk that comes with it. When he turned to the topic of Gypsy's pregnancy, you could feel a shift in his energy. This wasn't a happy moment for Ryan. There was no excitement, only hurt and confusion. He was blindsided. He expressed how Gypsy didn't give him a heads up before the big public announcement, leaving him feeling like an afterthought in what should have been a shared experience. For someone who was supposed to be her partner, it's hard to comprehend that level of disregard.
When is the paternity test? Guys, paternity test will have to be taken after the baby is born. I want to do a poll on that. Honestly, guys, I have my thoughts about Gypsy's pregnancy. I have my thoughts. But I don't really want to share them because, guys, it's one of those things I don't really want to share on live. Time will come, and I will discuss it more. Now, I have days where I think, I almost discussed it. See, damn y'all guys, man. I get candid on here, and I start telling things I probably shouldn't say.
Ryan's choice of words made it evident that he felt like just another spectator in Gypsy's life. It wasn't merely the pregnancy news. It was about what the news represented. It symbolized that the end of whatever connection might still have existed between them. The fact that she chose to inform the public before she told him said everything about where Ryan now stood in her life. There was a visible pain in the way he described it, and hurt that went beyond mere anger. What stood out about Ryan during this live session was his restraint. He was incredibly careful with his words, almost as if he was afraid to say too much and make things worse. It's clear he wants to protect whatever dignity he has left in his complicated situation. But it was also evident that the weight of it all was taking a toll on him. There was a palpable sense that he was balancing on a tightrope, trying to say what needed to be said. Ryan's frustration is evident, especially when he mentions the pressure he feels to move on. People constantly telling him to get over it, but the reality is much more complicated. He wants to move forward, but the public nature of their relationship, the ongoing legal issues, the news about the pregnancy makes it nearly impossible for him to truly let go.
I love how people are like, "Oh, you need to quit talking about her," but I'm literally questions are coming across, so it's kind of funny. And guys, I have more drama to go through with Gypsy. Like, you realize that, right? Like, I have more things coming that is drama related that I just can't let go because there's a lot of things that are left. Like, so whatever. I love when people are like, move on, and why don't y'all move on? Go on with your life. Don't tell me how to live mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't tell me how to live my life. You live yours. Like, I don't tell you how to live yours. Like, so quit telling me how to live mine. I appreciate it. Deuces.
The way Ryan frames it, it seems as if Gypsy is intentionally drawing a line in the sand, making a clear statement. This is my life now, and you're not part of it. What makes this even harder for Ryan is not that Gypsy moved on, but how she did it. The lack of communication, the spectacle, the disregard for his feelings. It all points to a deeper issue, a level of disrespect that cuts deep. His revelation during this live session weren't explosive, but they were deeply impactful. You could hear the exhaustion, the sadness, and perhaps even a bit of resignation in his voice. He's coming to terms with the fact that no matter what happens with the baby or the divorce, he's already lost something that cannot be regained.
Guys, honestly, I haven't really seen Gypsy since she left. Like, that's one of the hard things, guys, is that the fact that when we split, like, that was it. It was like Ken came in and it was done. Like, that was a bit hard. That's my wife. So that was probably the hardest part. But, it's kind of funny. I know that she has wanted to see me in the past and people have said no. So, but I'm moving on from that. I'm moving on from mentioning her.
On Gypsy's side, it's apparent she has her own narrative that she is determined to push. During one of her videos, she detailed how she revealed her pregnancy to her family, and the way she did it was almost dismissive of Ryan's place in her life. Gypsy described taking a pregnancy test without even telling her mother, Christy, and when it came back positive, she approached her mother casually, almost as if it was no big deal. There was no sense of excitement or joy in this reveal. It was more about confirming the test results and moving on to the next step. The fact that Ryan wasn't involved in a way speaks volumes about where he stood in her mind.
How did I tell Christy I was expecting? Well, after I texted you, sorry, I just burped on camera, that's embarrassing. Pregnancy burps. After I texted with you, and you were like, or maybe you could be pregnant. And I'm like, I think I have an extra test, so I went in my closet and I checked my closet and I still had that extra test. And I went to the bathroom. I didn't even tell Christy I was going to take it. Because I didn't, what happens if I'm not, so I didn't want to worry her or anything. So I just went and take it and then did it in the bathroom, came back positive. Christy was laying on the sofa right where she is, and I take the test and I'm like, Mom, what does this say? Like, I want to know what this says because I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. And she's like, you pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just sat down and I'm like, oh my God. What is Dad gonna say? Like, that was my number one thought. What is my dad gonna say?
When it came to telling her sister, Gypsy admitted being scared of her reaction, which reveals more about her family dynamics than anything else. She seemed far more concerned about her family's reaction than anything related to Ryan, which is interestingly considering he was still legally her husband. This shows how mentally she had already moved on from Ryan. He wasn't part of her present or her future anymore. Then came the issue of the baby's surname. Gypsy was very clear that it would not be Anderson, which is Ryan's last name. She openly discussed wanting the baby's last name to be Acker, Ken's surname. This statement wasn't just about naming a baby. It was a deliberate public declaration of where priorities lay. Gypsy made it clear that her future was with Ken, and Ryan was being excluded from that vision. It wasn't just about a name. It was a way of publicly signaling that Ryan no longer had a place in her new life.
So I've seen people asking, will the baby have Ken's last name, or will it be a Blanchard, will it be an Anderson, will it be a Euchre? And the truth is, I am not 100% sure on that. I've asked my divorce attorney, and what I gather from everything is that if Ryan is kind and will allow us to go ahead and put the baby's name down as Euchre, that could be a possibility. But if Ryan wants to fight it, then it makes it really hard. Ryan knows he's not the father, because I got pregnant during Jazz Fest weekend, and I had already been away from Ryan and not been intimate with him after leaving.
Gypsy also acknowledged the presumption under Louisiana law Ryan is the father since the baby was conceived while they were married. But she is determined to prevent that presumption from becoming reality. She's already preparing to enter into a third-party agreement to ensure Ryan is not legally associated with the child. She's making sure there's no room for Ryan in her future or the child's future.
Is Louisiana will have me do what they call a third-party agreement. So you can look it up. So third-party agreement, Louisiana. So what that means is, yes, when the child is conceived during the marriage, so during me and Ryan's marriage, the child was conceived, Ryan is presumed to be the father. That doesn't mean he is, but he is presumed by the court and the law. So what I have to do is enter into a third-party agreement. So what that means is 300 days after or within 300 days of the termination of the marriage, the divorce, we'll do a paternity test. It will show Ken is the father. It will show that Ryan is not the father.
But it's not just the legal aspect that Gypsy is focused on. She's also using her platform to push a very specific narrative that Ryan is not involved in and Ken is the father. It's almost as if she's trying to rewrite a story, crafting a storyline where Ryan plays no part. She's using her social media influence to ensure that everyone, her audience, her family, and even Ryan himself understands that Ken is the future and Ryan is just a part of her past. This push is deliberate and aggressive. The more Gypsy speaks publicly, the clearer it becomes that she wants control over not only her personal life, but also the public perception of that life. She wants everyone to accept this new reality she's created, where Ken is the father and Ryan is left out entirely. Gypsy isn't just moving on, she's actively trying to erase any trace of Ryan. It raises the question, how much of this is about love for Ken, and how much is about control and power? Gypsy even offered Ryan a bit of praise during her life, mentioning that he's been respectful throughout the situation. On the surface, this might seem like a gesture of goodwill, but it felt more like a calculated move to pacify her audience and paint herself as a bigger person. By giving Ryan a small compliment, she positions herself as fair while continuing to make moves that distance him further. It's a subtle yet effective way of keeping her public image intact while executing her agenda. Gypsy's actions speak volumes. She doesn't just want to move forward, she wants to reshape the entire narrative, removing Ryan from the picture entirely. It's as if she wants to erase their shared past, ensuring that Ken is the only father figure involved. This leads to the question, is Gypsy's focus on moving on with Ken really about love, or is it also about making a statement and maintaining control? From an outside perspective, it doesn't look like she's just moving on forward. It looks like she's attempting to override her past entirely. Gypsy's determination to establish Ken as the father of the child is evident. She laid out the legal process in Louisiana, stating that because the child was conceived during her marriage to Ryan, the law presumes Ryan to be the father. But Gypsy is prepared to fight that presumption. She explained the steps she plans to take, including having both Ryan and Kane sign documents acknowledging the true paternity of the child. It's all very strategic, ensuring that Ryan's name is legally removed from any association with her baby. Gypsy was playing a careful game, giving Ryan just enough acknowledgement to maintain peace, but systematically pushing him out of the picture. She's preparing for every possible outcome. Gypsy wants to make sure that if Ryan tries to assert any rights, she has the legal backing to stop it. Her goal is to have Ken's name on the birth certificate, and she's not leaving this to chance. Gypsy is making active efforts to ensure that her future with Ken and that there are no lingering ties to Ryan. It's not just about love or moving on. It's about control, about ensuring her new life is free from any remnant of her past. She even spoke openly about her motivation for doing all this. Gypsy wants stability for her child, something she claims she never had growing up due to her mother's constant moving. She wants to create a family environment that is different from what she experienced. On the surface, this sounds admirable, but there's a deeper motive here. Gypsy wants stability, but specifically a stability that excludes Ryan. She's crafting a future for her child that is based on her own terms, erasing Ryan from that vision entirely. Gypsy also hinted at her plans for the future with Ken, mentioning that they might buy a house together once her parole ends.
I believe I can get my own apartment. When I moved from Lake Charles, I transferred my parole to a different. We don't have counties in Louisiana. We have parishes, but it basically is county. So I transferred counties, parish, to have my parole here at my parents' house. So I don't want to keep asking to change my address on a regular. I want to rock out this next, 11 months on parole at one address. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay with my parents, and then after parole, Ken and I could reevaluate. We might get a rent house. We might buy a house. It's still far too early to have those conversations right now, and with the restrictions, it's quite difficult.
Although she's saying it was too soon to have this conversation, the fact that she brought it up reveals that her mind is. She's envisioning a future with Ken, and she's making sure Ryan has no role in it. Gypsy's approach to the entire situation is highly calculated. She's not leaving anything up to fate. While she might present it all as doing what's best for her child, it's hard not to feel some empathy for Ryan. He's in the tough spot, being told to move on by people who don't understand the complexities of his situation. He wants to move forward, but with the legalities still hanging over him and Gypsy's continued presence in his life, it's not as easy as people might think. He's trying to be respectful. Even as he's pushed out of the picture, his frustration is palpable, especially when he speaks about people's expectations of him. He wants to let go, but circumstances make it hard for him to do so. Looking forward, the outcome of the paternity test will play a crucial role in determining the dynamics between Ryan, Gypsy, and Ken. If the test confirms that Ken is the father, it could finally give Ryan the closure he needs. But until then, he remains stuck in limbo, unable to fully move on while still legally tied to Gypsy and the public perception surrounding them. So what do you think? Is Gypsy handling this situation fairly? Or is Ryan being unfairly pushed away? It's a complex situation, and there aren't any easy answers. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a conversation about what's really going on behind the scenes. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more updates. This story is far from over, and we'll continue to unravel it together.